Well, the new look NBA recently had another big night, with Luka Doncic erupting for 73 points on the same day as Devin Booker dropped 62. And this historic moment for the league is coming just 4 days after Joel Embiid scored 70, which also coincided with Karl Anthony Towns' franchise record and career-high 62-point performance. In a scoring onslaught, which will have many in the mass media exploding in their pants while pontificating about what an elite, skillful era we're currently in.
Peak of basketball, in my opinion. You're seeing it what guys doing.
But if you really have been paying attention, like Minnesota Timberwolves head coach Chris Finch, you would know the movement to eradicate defense altogether and drive up scoring amid unprecedented spacing and pace of play levels not seen since the 1960s has been a long time coming.
Well, I mean, it was an absolute disgusting performance of defense and immature basketball.
In what amounts to a pathetic and desperate attempt to elevate viewership and league popularity.
So thank you, LeBron James, for what you bring to our league.
To a man who, frankly, there's nothing else to win in this league.
A tactic that has hilariously exploded in the face of the vapid moron, Commissioner Penishead, helming the league offices en route a devastating, Titanic-like voyage which has tanked viewership and likely irreparably destroyed the product as a whole forever.
Iceberg, right ahead!
As we are now knee-deep in an era with guys celebrating scoring totals in the locker room like they just won an NBA championship. For a game, they jogged up and down the court, making uncontested layups in.
It's a complete crap.
But at least they have provided some fodder and valuable talking points for the ignorant and uneducated horde of teenagers on social media trying to hype up their vastly overrated kings and build wholly undeserving fake GOAT legacies for a crop of pampered, petulant losers hell-bent on nothing more than filling their own hollow stat sheets. It all started in the 1995-96 league year, where the Chicago Bulls set the all-time record for wins in a regular season, going 72-10, en route to Michael Jordan winning his 4th league MVP and 4th NBA championship. But something else very impactful happened that season. That year, for the first time since 1956, league-wide scoring averages dipped below 100 points for a full NBA season. The first time in 40 years, and the only time in post-merger modern NBA history, beginning with the ABA-NBA merger in 1976. And the decade of the 90s as a whole marked a decade-long massive dip in scoring and pace of play. As if you go back to just 1985-86, league-wide scoring was still in the 110s per night range, a level which held pretty consistently outside of the outrageous pacing of the 1960s, which saw league-wide scoring for that decade in the 115s. But from the 71-72 season and running all the way to 89-90, averages held right around that 110 point per game threshold until the early 90s, and that sharp drop-off in scoring would only ratchet up for the next decade, which would ensue into the mid-2000s, as scoring would hit historical low points during that 10-year span, and in the 2003-2004 season, league-wide scoring bottomed out at just 93.4 points per game a night. As a response, the league decided they needed to start litigating out defense in an attempt to elevate scoring, and in 2004, hand-checking was removed. However, as the saying goes, you can take the defense out of the NBA, but you can't take the player away from defending. And that era of player had already been instilled with the importance and necessity to defend. See, what we're seeing today is inherently a generational issue with the players as much as it is about the rules changes itself. And that era of player that was already in the league during the early to mid 2000s were still going to defend aggressively despite what the rules changes were. So while scoring would see an immediate and drastic uptick from 93 points to 97 in just one season, league-wide averages would remain in the 90s over the next 10 years that would follow, from 2004 to 2013. But in the 2013-2014 season, there was another monumental shift, as three-point shooting was on the rise amid this analytics revolution. And court spacing became the buzzword as the San Antonio Spurs won a league-best 62 games that season and obliterated this guy in the finals 4-1. On the surface, just another humiliating entry into the journals of LeBron's many playoff failures, which saw his Miami Heat team get absolutely obliterated in the largest margin of differential in NBA Finals history. But below the surface, the league was trending towards this proliferation of spacing and three-point shooting that would erupt over the next few seasons. And just the next league season would see the rise of the Golden State Warriors dynasty, as they would win their first championship with Steph Curry winning that season's league MVP. Over the ensuing 11 years from that 2013 season to this current one we are in, league pace and scoring has spiked drastically as each season gets easier and easier to stack hollow and superficially inflated statistics, with three-point shooting and lack of defense swelling to rampant and unprecedented levels. Until here we are, 116 points per game a night in 2023-2024, the most since 1967, smack dab in the most pathetic era in the sport's history, where scoring, efficiency, and stats are only going to continue to rise. It will, of course, serve as an emphatic reminder that those real legends who played in substantially more difficult times and achieved what they did would dominate this putrid era at an even more extreme level. As from the 1970 season and running all the way until 2013, there were only 22 total 60-plus point games. That's 22 in 43 years. And in the 11-year span, running from 2014 until today, there have now been 27 and counting. While there were just 3 total 70-plus point games from 1970 to 2013, but there have now been 4 in the last calendar year and 2 in the last 4 days. And yet, Kobe Bryant is still second all-time in most career 60-point games, behind only Wilt Chamberlain, who played in the meteoric pacing of the 1960s, which closely mirror what is happening today. While Kobe's 25 career 50-point games is more than LeBron James and Kevin Durant combined. And Michael Jordan's 30.12 point per game career scoring average is still most all time. So while many will use the statistics, all of these players who have spent most or all of their careers in the post-2013 NBA getting fat on in this weak, middling, trash can era where defense has been eliminated by the league offices amid a generation of petulant, lazy losers already lacking the desire and will to defend, with nightly league averages over 20 points per game higher than other players experienced in their primes. Just let it all serve as a stunning and poignant reminder of just how much better those players really were.